Welcome back, everyone. This is Rob from Crown of Thorns with a new Bible study video, and today we're going to talk about the debate over dinosaurs. And some of you might be thinking that seems like a random topic and unlike most of the other videos that you do, and I would agree with that. But there is a reason why I'm doing this video. One, because it will lead into some other Bible study videos that will be coming up. So this is kind of like the precursor to that. Secondly, I think that as Christians, we need to be creationists, which means we do not subscribe to the cult, the religious cult of evolutionism. And I'm going to pull this forward some. I noticed that's a little blurry over there still. A little bit better. All right, anyway. As Christians, we should be creationists and we should be fighting back, pushing back against evolutionism, which is taught in all of the public schools, all of your public universities. Kids are getting brainwashed with this junk, and we as Christians need to be fighting back. But I find that sometimes people become so zealous in what they want to accomplish that there's that saying, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And I think there are some Christians who have good intentions, very good intentions, and in their efforts to promote creationism, I don't like using creationism, creation, and in their effort to combat evolutionism, they sometimes throw out things that don't need to be thrown out. Now, we all know that the government lies. And if that comes as a surprise to you, then I'd have to ask which rock you've been living under for many, many years. We know that all of the government agencies lie to us. Okay? Homeland Security, the FBI, the CIA, the FDA, the IRS, they all lie. Okay? That is their primary function, is to lie. NASA, which is a government agency, they lie. Okay? And they've propagated a lot of lies, and I'm going to get into a lot of them today. Those will be the future videos that I made mention of at the beginning of the video. But science in general, the Bible tells us to beware science falsely so-called. And evolutionism is the epitome of a science falsely so-called. There is no science to evolutionism. None. There is nothing that supports evolutionism. However, creation can be proven because science is things that we can see, that we can feel, that we can observe. Okay? And we can observe creation. Nobody has ever observed evolution. Now, they'll lie about it. They'll give you these straw man examples of supposed evolution, but nobody's ever observed it. In fact, most of your scientists will say that evolution started and most of the significant changes happened millions of years ago, long before man came. Well, wow, what a convenient way to make that unprovable, I guess, or provable. I would say provable. If no one was there to see it, then how do you know? Not that we need to see everything, I get that. But, again, science is things that we can see, we can feel, we can touch, we can observe it. All right? So anyway, going back to what I was saying, a lot of times creationists will be so zealous in wanting to prove creation, wanting to combat against NASA, and the science falsely so-called evolutionism, that they take things, I think, a step too far. Because there are two camps when it comes to, not two camps. There's more than two camps. But the two that I'm going to talk about today, in addition to what the Bible says, the two camps, when it comes to dinosaurs, are as such. There are some that say there were no dinosaurs. And these are the people I've been talking about, the creationists who are very well aware that the government lies, that NASA lies, that scientists lie. And I agree with all of that. But again, I think they're taking it a step too far. They're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. They think that if they believe in dinosaurs, then that means that they support evolution. And that's not true. There are a lot of Christian creationists who believe that there were dinosaurs, and they do not believe in evolution. The two do not go hand in hand. But we've been brainwashed and taught so much over and over again that the two are synonymous, that in our efforts to disprove evolutionism, some creationists want to throw out dinosaurs as if they never existed. So there's that camp, people who believe that dinosaurs never existed, and these are mostly creationists who are trying to combat evolutionism. And like I said, their intentions are good, and I agree with them on probably 95% of what they're saying, but I do not agree on this. But it doesn't matter what I think. The second camp is the people that believe dinosaurs existed, but they believe that they lived millions of years ago, long before man came on the scene. So you have these two camps. One that denies the existence of dinosaurs, and then another camp who uses God's creation, the dinosaurs, to propagate the science falsely so-called known as evolution. And they will say dinosaurs lived millions of years ago, long before man came on the scene. And I don't agree with either one of those arguments. Okay? But again, it doesn't matter what I think or what I say. So what we're going to look at is, what does the Bible say? What does the Bible say about dinosaurs? Now, I'll be the first to admit that the word dinosaur is not going to show up in the Bible. All right? So we have to do some deductive reasoning, which is not out of line, which is how you do a lot of, that's a means by which we draw a lot of accurate conclusions. All right? So, again, two camps. One camp, usually creationists, who say that there never were dinosaurs. We're being lied to about them. And then there's the other camp that says, oh, dinosaurs existed. It's just that they existed millions of years ago, long before man hit the scene. All right? But what does the Bible say? Well, believe it or not, by using deductive reasoning and a little bit of common sense, we will see that the Bible does discuss dinosaurs. All right? So go to Job chapter 40. All right? And we're going to read verses 15 through 18. I'll write these down. All right? Job is where we're going to. Job chapter 40, verses 15 through 18. All right? What does it say? Behold now Behemoth, which I made with thee, he eateth grass as an ox. Lo now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. He moveth his tail like a cedar, the sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong pieces of brass, his bones are like bars of iron. Now, those people that are in the first camp, who deny that dinosaurs ever existed, or people who are just ignorant of the fact that the Bible talks about dinosaurs, will gloss over that, or they'll say things like, well, that's just describing an elephant, or a rhinoceros, or a hippo, or maybe even an alligator or a crocodile. Well, none of those actually fit the description. Behold now Behemoth, which I made with thee, he eateth grass as an ox. Well, alligators and crocodiles don't eat grass, so that eliminates them. All right? His strength is in his loins, his force is in the navel of his belly. Here we go. He moveth his tail like a cedar, which is a tree. So the hippo, the rhino, and the elephant are very huge animals, absolutely. And they do eat grass. They are vegetarian. But if you look at the tail of any of those three animals, they're very small, especially relative to the size of the animal that it's attached to. Okay? I would not describe an elephant tail or a hippo tail or a rhino tail as being like a tree. It's not. It's maybe like a twig at best. So an animal that's a plant-eating animal, huge belly, His bones are strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. And he moves his tail like a cedar. To me, that sounds a lot like a brontosaurus or a brachiosaurus or a diplodocus. All are plant-eating dinosaurs that had huge tails like a tree. Okay? That would be, that description in Job fits the dinosaur much more than it fits any of the things that most people try to appoint that to. It does not fit a description of an elephant, rhinoceros, or hippo, or an alligator, or a crocodile. It doesn't fit at all. So, there we go. I think right there the Bible is talking about a dinosaur. And notice that Job is describing, or God's describing this animal to Job as though, Job, look at that animal. You see that animal? I'm going to describe it because, and you'd have to read Job for the long disposition that God is giving to Job. But anyway, he's describing it in a way that it's coexisting with Job. That would not line up with what the evolutionists say. They say that the dinosaurs existed before man. Yet God makes it sound as though this animal is existing at the same time as Job. It's funny to me that the Flintstones cartoon is more scientifically accurate than what the evolutionists have come up with. That's pretty sad. But anyway, let's keep going. Now let's go to Job 41. We're going to look at verses, let me get this here, verse 1, verses 7 through 10, and verses 19 through 21. All right? So go to Job 41. Should just be a page over. All right. We're looking at verse 1. It says, "Canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook?" So far he's talked about behemoth and now Leviathan. Two different animals. If you're going to draw something out with a hook, typically that's talking about something that's in the water. Like when you go fishing, you use a hook, right? So he described this one animal that's living on land. Now he's going to describe one that's living in the water. All right, verses 7 through 10. "Canst thou fill his skin with barbed iron, or his head with fish spears? Lay thy hand upon him, remember the battle, do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dares stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me?" And now verses 19 through 21, which say, "Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth." God's describing an animal, most likely one that lives in the water. I guess it could live on land if you're trying to catch something with a hook. Maybe it means a spear. Another word for a spear, harpoon. I don't know. I'm typically thinking it could be that it's probably a water-dwelling animal, but maybe it's amphibious. It can go water or land. I don't know. The point being is, God's also describing an animal that can breathe fire. Right? That's how it sounds to me. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. This is a fire-breathing animal. And we're going to get to that in just a second. But so far, God has described two gigantic animals that we don't see anymore, right? Not usually. And I think that they both pertain to dinosaurs. Behemoth, which I think, like I said, would be like a diplodocus or a brontosaurus or a brachiosaurus. This one here is a water-dwelling animal, but huge, maybe amphibious, like I said, water or land. Maybe like an elasmosaurus. I don't know. But these seem to show, one, the Bible does talk about dinosaurs, and two, that they existed at the same time as man. Now, you have to remember that the word dinosaur, okay, was not created until the 1800s. So prior to the 1800s, different words would be used to describe these giant animals. The one that comes to mind would be dragon. Okay, so when we read books and it talks about dragons, if you read any culture, any society's history books, and you look back, they all speak of something similar to a dragon. Why are there so many legends about dragons? Well, I think it's because they actually existed. Now, when we think of dragons, I'm not talking about like Puff the Magic Dragon or, cartoonish type stuff. I'm talking about animals that existed with man that were huge, that we don't see really much anymore. Okay, and just because the Bible doesn't use the word dinosaur, or even history books older than 1800s don't say dinosaur, when they say dragon or words similar to that, that's what they're getting at, is a dinosaur. This word was invented in the 1800s. So now that's the common terminology for these huge animals. All right? Think about this. I'm not into the zodiac by any means. At all. Okay? I think that stuff, astrology and all that stuff, is evil. You can look that up in the Bible for yourself. I actually had somebody comment challenging me as to why I said that astrology is evil, that the Bible doesn't say that. Apparently they've never read their Bible, because I gave them 2 or 3 verses and then I never heard back from them. But whatever. But as a historical piece of Chinese culture, the zodiac is very prominent. And if you look at it, there's all these different animals, like a rabbit or a chicken or whatever else. And then in the midst of all of that, there's a dragon. Now you have to ask yourself, we know that rabbits exist, we know that chickens exist, we know that bulls exist. Why would they throw in a supposedly imaginary animal like a dragon if all the other animals are real? Well, I think it's because that dragon is not a fairy tale character. It is a real animal. It is a dinosaur. But we say dragon because, again, it was titled that before this word was even invented. All right? It just doesn't make sense that this zodiac, and I don't subscribe to it, I'm not promoting it or condoning anything else, but it just seems odd that this zodiac would have all these real animals and then just one imaginary animal. I don't think that's it at all. I think that that dragon is a reference to dinosaurs. Absolutely. So, like I said, these seem to indicate that dinosaurs, 1, existed, and 2, that they coexisted with man. But again, the evolutionists will say, yeah, the dinosaurs existed, but they lived millions of years before man, millions of years before Adam. Well, again, what does the Bible say? The Bible, Jesus said that Adam was the beginning. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of verses. We'll look at Genesis 1:31. Genesis 1:31. So go all the way back to the very first book in the Bible. Genesis 1:31 says, "And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good, and the evening and the morning were the 6th day." All right, keep that in mind. And now we're going to go to Exodus 20:11. Exodus 20:11. Exodus 20, of course, is where you'll find the 10 Commandments. So this is what Exodus 20:11 says. "For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day." So in 6 days God created the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that in them is. That would have to include dinosaurs, right? When God created the animals, the dinosaurs would have been there on day 6. It says clearly that God created everything in 6 days. All that in them is, in the heaven, in the earth, and in the sea, God created all of them right then in those 6 days. And if you go through the 6 days of creation, you'll see that, the plants, the sun, the stars, the animals, and then eventually, obviously Adam and then Eve. All right. So God is saying that everything was created in those 6 days. All right. Let's take a look at another one. Mark chapter 10. Mark chapter 10, verses 6 through 9. Again, why is this important? Some people will be like, I don't care about dinosaurs. Well, you don't have to like dinosaurs or be into dinosaurs. When I was a kid, I was really into dinosaurs. I had tons and tons of dinosaur books that I would read and loved it. But even as a kid, I found it ironic that they kept saying millions of years ago, and yet, and saying that, they lived before man. I knew the Genesis account, and they didn't jive, and I knew one of them had to be wrong. But I loved dinosaurs as a kid. But the evolutionists are taking these magnificent animals that kids love. Look, people do like dinosaurs. Otherwise, these Jurassic Park movies wouldn't do so well, right? So adults and kids love dinosaurs. But the evolutionists, these scientists in Hollywood, all these evil elite people are using God's creation to propagate and promote evolutionism. That's what they're doing. And I think we need to take that stuff back. Whether you're into dinosaurs or not, you should care that God gets the credit for his creation. Whether it be dinosaurs or canaries. God should get the credit for that. And like I said, all of this is going to lead into some future videos where it's going to be, I'm going to go on a left turn for a little bit, this creation versus evolutionism. And we're going to look at some stuff and find out what we've been lied to about on a number of levels. All right, anyway, Mark chapter 10, verses 6 through 9 says, "But from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. So then they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder." All right. Actually, Jesus is talking about marriage. But the point being, and I guess I just needed that first verse, but from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female. The beginning of the creation. That is when everything started. And we'll get to, well, when was that? Was that millions of years ago? Well, we're going to take a look at that too in a minute. But here's the other thing. When the evolutionists say that the dinosaurs existed millions of years ago, long before man came on the scene, well, what does the Bible say about that? Go to Romans 5:12. Romans 5:12. And it says, "Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned." So what the Bible is saying is, there was no death before Adam, because death came into the world when Adam sinned. Sin brought death into the world. Well, who brought sin into the world? Well, you can talk about Lucifer and how he tricked them and all that stuff. But the point being is, it was Adam and Eve who committed the first sin. Okay? And that sin that they committed is the reason why we all die physically now. Okay? There was no death before Adam. Now, that would include any animal deaths. See, the animals wouldn't have been under a separate curse by any means. The death is a curse, and it was brought in by Adam and Eve. Nothing died before Adam and Eve. Now, when we talk about life, yes, plants are alive, but they do not have a consciousness. A tree doesn't have a brain. You can talk to a tree, but it's not going to hear you or understand you, and it can't talk back. It can't even try to communicate back. There's a difference between plant life and animal life. Animals, at least, have a consciousness of life. They can communicate or try to communicate. My cats do it all the time when they want something to eat. They communicate very well, okay? But they have a consciousness of life, okay? There is a difference. So, yes, plants may have died. They would have died because Adam and Eve and all the animals had to have something to eat. And they were all vegetarian, so plants died. So when I say there was no death before Adam, I'm talking about humans and animals, okay? And the Bible is clearly saying that by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin. Therefore, there was no death before Adam. Therefore, the dinosaurs could not have lived before Adam and then died out because there was no death. Okay? Take a look at another one. 1 Corinthians 15:21. 1 Corinthians 15:21. Just the next book over. All right. 1 Corinthians 15:21 says, "For since by a man came death," and I'm just going to stop there. There's more to it, but that's the part I wanted. "For since by a man came death." Again, just reaffirming what Romans 5:12 says. Death came because of man's sin. Okay? Therefore, nothing lived before Adam. Okay? And we saw before that God, Jesus, said that Adam was the beginning. Now, granted, the animals were created before Adam. I get that. The point being is that this is the beginning of human history. And this, unfortunately, was the beginning of sin and death. Okay? But that's what we're left with. That's unfortunately what happened. All right. Now, how old is the world then? That's the question, and that's another big debate that pertains to dinosaurs to an extent. How old is the Earth? The evolutionists will tell you that it's millions of years old, okay? And that the universe itself and everything, this is what they'll tell you. Now tell me this doesn't sound like a fairy tale. Everything that we see right now in the world, in the sky, everything was condensed down into a dot smaller than a period on a page. Okay? Everything squeezed into that. And that came from nothing. And then that nothingness and that little dot exploded. Okay? And that was, I think right now, the current number is around 14 billion years ago. All right? So from that, it exploded, and everything that we see now came from that little dot. Okay? The insanity of it all boggles my mind, that people would actually buy into that. And they'll say, well, you believe in a God. That's like believing in Santa Claus or whatever else. Okay, that is a fair argument. But let me ask you something. Again, when you look around, what do you see happening? I don't see animals evolving. Are there minor changes within the same kind? Absolutely. Okay? And they'll say things like that, like, well, no, look at this butterfly, it evolved and now it has, 4 antennas instead of 2, or whatever it may be. The bottom line is, it's still a butterfly. It didn't change from one kind to the next. And that's what evolutionism rests upon. Okay? So we don't see that happening. No one has ever seen that happen. Ever. Okay? However, I do see things being created. Okay? I've had cats before that procreated and produced more cats. That I've seen. I've seen cows give birth, and it was always a cow that came out. That's creation. I see creation. Okay? I don't think that lightning struck a plastic factory and produced this whiteboard. No, there was intelligent design behind this. Somebody made this and put it together. See, that stuff I can observe and see It's tangible. It can be proven. Evolutionism has nothing to stand on. Zero. All right? So anyway, to say that the evolutionists, their magic ingredient is time. Just give us more time. And I said this in the last video, perhaps. It's a fairy tale when the princess kisses the frog and the frog becomes a man. Right? But given enough time, that frog will evolve and change enough that eventually man came from that. This common ancestor. Do you see what I'm saying? Both are fairy tales. The evolutionists, though, they need time because they were there. You can say, well, it was before anyone was around to see it, so you can't just prove it. Well, you also can't prove it. It's just ridiculous. It's a straw man argument. All right? So anyway, looking at what we do know, okay, if you take and you add up the ages that are given in the genealogies in Genesis, starting with Adam and going all the way down to Joseph, okay, and you look and you see that these guys like Adam living 930 years. I am cheating. I got a chart up here that shows their ages, so I don't have this memorized. Seth, who lived 912 years. Canaan, who lived 910 years. Jared, who lived to be 962. Methuselah, the oldest of them all, lived 969 years. Anyway, you take that and you add up all these dates, and when you get to Joseph, and he lived to be about 110, all right, and you add that all up, you'll get to a certain point, and then you kind of have to look at what was going on in secular history as well. And you, again, deductive reasoning, you put all the pieces together, you will see that the world, the earth, is approximately 6,000 years old. Okay? Where we are right now. Almost right on the money, 6,000 years old. All right? Not millions of years old. Not at all. You will come up with the fact that the earth is about 6,000 years old. And, that lines up perfectly, starting with Adam. I can show that. I can demonstrate that. Okay? We have the dates. We have numbers that actually make sense, and we can show that. All right? Now, there are some people who believe in what's called a gap theory. They believe that, and I'm only going to touch on this briefly. I may have done a video on this. If not, I will. There are some people who believe that there is a gap between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. And this is people that usually just want to compromise the Bible. They're old earth creationists. Or they're Christians who are trying to compromise the Bible so that it will accommodate the science falsely so-called. So they'll say, well, between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2, there were millions of years that took place. That way the Bible will line up with their secular science falsely so-called. I think that's horrible. That's heresy. That's compromising the Bible. That's the apostasy that I talk about so frequently. All right? And then there's others who believe in what's called the day-age theory. And what they believe is that those days of creation were not literal 24-hour days. That those days could have been thousands of years or millions of years. All right, let's take a look at that. I don't believe that for a second. I think there were literal 24-hour days. And I'm going to show you why. All right, go back to Exodus 20, 11. Okay? 10 and 11. Exodus 20, verses 10 and 11. So, God has given out the 10 commandments, and he's given an example of what he did. I want you guys to rest on the seventh day because I did as well. Okay? So, he's talking about that. Exodus 10 and 11. All right? Exodus 20, verses 10 and 11. Says, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within the gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So he's giving them an example. He's saying, you know what, I worked for 6 days, and then I rested on the seventh. Now, according to those people who believe in the day-age theory, They believe that those days are not literal 24-hour days, that those could be thousands or even millions of years. So you mean to tell me then that God is telling them, Jews, I want you to work for 6 million years, okay, and then take a million years off, because that's the parallel that you would have to draw from Exodus 20, 10, 11. If those days, like you claim, are actually millions of years, then that would say, God would be saying, hey Jews, I rested on the seventh day. In 6 days, which were actually millions of years, I created all this stuff. Now I want you to follow that example. So work for 6 million years and then take a million years off. That's stupid. There's no way that those are long periods of time. And again, that's why you need a King James Bible, because a lot of your newer perversions will say, this was the first era, or this was the first piece of time. They don't make it very specific that it was the first day, the first evening and morning. All right? The King James makes it very specific. Again, you need a King James Bible. Also, if you think about this, the sun was created on day, and don't quote me on this, I think it's on the day 3 that the sun was created. The plants were created on day 4. So you mean to tell me, I'm sorry, I have that backward. The plants were created on day 3, and the sun was created on day 4. Okay? So you mean to tell me that those plants had to exist for a million years before they got some sunlight? I don't think they would last very long. Could they last one day without sunlight? Absolutely. They could probably last several days without sunlight. But a million years? I don't think so. So it just doesn't make sense. Quit compromising the Bible to try to fit some sort of pseudoscience. Okay? Again, the Bible is scientifically accurate every time. All the time. All right? So, why did these people live so long? And why am I getting at all this? Because I'm going to get to the dinosaurs again here in a second. People lived, obviously, for a very long time before the flood. Like I said, Adam for 930, Methuselah for 969, Jared for 962. Okay? You have to realize, and this is, again, going back to what the Bible says in Genesis. I've talked about this before. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And a lot of your newer perversions will say heavens, plural. That doesn't come until later. All right? And if you read, you'll see that there was a firmament. There was a canopy above the earth. All right? So you have the earth and a canopy. And there's still one there. If you read in Psalms, and I don't remember which one right now, David still mentions a firmament of water or ice above the earth. Okay? So it's still there right now. Okay? And remember, obviously David came after the flood. But before the flood, there was another canopy. And this canopy, if you read the book or books written by Josephus. Josephus was a Jewish scholar, historian, scientist who lived at the time of Jesus. All right? And he wrote many books. And the Jews have always believed that there was a canopy above the earth, about 3 fingers thick, or 2 fingers, depending, doesn't matter. A few inches thick, that was above the earth, a canopy. All right? What would that do? Well, one, it would create higher air pressure. Okay? Right now, the canopy is quite a ways up. I believe there still is another canopy. Paul talks about the third heaven, where God resides. Well, that means that there's 2 below it. All right? Separated by these different canopies. All right? One fell during the flood. There's still one there. All right? What was I getting at? Anyway, so the canopy, I think, is still there. But there was another one. All right? And it was made of ice. So what would that do? Oh, right now, because that other canopy is so high up, the air pressure isn't as great as it once was. Okay? With the canopy that would have been lower than the one that we have now, there would have been greater air pressure, which means you would be able to breathe better. It's kind of like being in a hyperbaric chamber. Pure oxygen. All right? You get more energy. You grow stronger. They find fossilized insects this big. And remember, insects breathe through their skin. So the air pressure would have had to have been higher in order for them to get that big. Okay? So, with people having higher air pressure, being able to breathe better, getting better nutrients, we know that their food was much more pure than what we have now. But also that canopy would have blocked out the harmful UV rays from the sun. Okay? So that is part of the reason why they live so long. Well, it's logical to conclude that if people were living for 900 years, that the animals could live just as long. Why not? Right? So you have higher air pressure, protection from the UV rays. So here's my point to all of this. Reptiles, even now, never stop growing. Now, if you put a lizard in a tank this big, it'll grow to a certain size, then it will stop. But if it's out in the open, in the wild, reptiles never stop living. And they still live a long time. Look at those turtles on the Galapagos Islands. They're 200 years old, and they're huge. They start out this big. Reptiles never stop growing. Okay? So, it's not compromising the Bible to believe that there were dinosaurs, because if people were living before the flood, 900 years, because of this canopy, increased air pressure, reduced UV, then why wouldn't animals live that long too? And if reptiles never stop growing, how big could a lizard get in 900 years? Brontosaurus size? A T-Rex size? Absolutely. Why not? So it's not a concession to evolution to believe that there were dinosaurs. It's right there in the Bible. That's God's creation. We just need to divert the premise that dinosaurs, we need to divert to the fact that dinosaurs are God's creation. They weren't, they didn't evolve or come from a dot of nothing millions of years ago. They coexisted with man, and they were created by God. All right? So, most of them, as we know, became extinct. Now, a lot of people will say, well, they must have died out in the flood. No. God told Noah to take 2 of every kind, except for 7 of some for those that could be sacrificed. We know that. But at the very minimum, 2 of each kind. A male and a female, obviously. Otherwise, you can't get more. So, if you don't understand that concept, then you really need to go way, way back and talk to your mom or dad about that. Anyway, so you need a male and a female. So why wouldn't Noah take dinosaurs? God said to take 2 of every kind. Now, you'd say, well, dinosaurs are huge. They wouldn't fit on the ark. Actually, the ark is big enough that it would accommodate bigger dinosaurs. But Noah's smart. Why would he take full-grown ones? You would take babies, because reptiles start very small. Okay? All you do is take the baby dinosaurs. They were there. They live longer, too, once you get past the flood. Okay? So dinosaurs were on the ark. Why not? God said to. Why did they die out after that? Well, one, a lot of things changed. Like I said, when the canopy fell, ages start going down. Like I said, by the time you get to Joseph, he lives to be 110, which is old to us, but not that much more. Maybe our average lifespan now is 80, so it's about 30 years more. So reptiles, animals also would feel that effect, live shorter lives. They wouldn't get as big. But I think some dinosaurs, bigger ones, still would have existed immediately after the flood. Because if you look, Shem lived to be 600 years old, even after the flood. Okay? Dinosaurs would have still coexisted with man after the flood. However, just like with any type of animal that becomes a nuisance, no matter how big or small it is, people hunt them down. 1, for food. 2, to get rid of them. Civilizations are pushing into these new territories. Cities are being built. It's unfortunate in some respects, but that's what happens. As people progress and take up more space, unfortunately, a lot of times, animals get pushed further and further away. And if you had something like dragons, especially fire-breathing ones, coming through and burning up your city, yes, you would go out and kill those things to preserve your city, but also your family and your friends. So when you read these, again, these supposed fables, I say they're probably like legends, true stories of, men going out and slaying the dragon. That's truth. Why wouldn't it be? You would do that now. They do that now. In Florida, if an alligator becomes a nuisance, they kill it because they don't want it attacking people. Sorry, these glasses do block a lot of that blue light, but apparently not all of it. My eyes are watering. Anyway, so I believe that even after the flood, the dinosaurs still existed. The reason most of them are extinct is because they were hunted down for food, because they became nuisance, whatever. Some people would just go and hunt them as a trophy. I don't agree with that. I have nothing against hunting by any means. I think it's great. I think it's necessary. But if you're going to hunt and kill something, it should be for a good reason, because you're going to eat it and utilize as much of the animal as you can. I have no respect for people who go out and shoot something just for fun, or so that it's just a trophy and you let the rest of it waste. That's horrible. That's not what God intended there. But that's probably what would have happened too with the dinosaurs. Hey, look at me. I got this Triceratops head hanging on my wall. All right. Congratulations. But I think that some dinosaurs still exist in remote areas of the world. And no, not like, listen to this. The evolutionists believe that the T-Rex evolved into a chicken. I'm not making that up. I'm not trying to be funny. The evolutionists will tell you that the T-Rex evolved into a chicken. Because yes, that is a much more esteemed and fierce animal. I mean, if you really want to survive, we should all just evolve into chickens, right? Ridiculously stupid, but people believe it. That's how dumb people can be. So no, when I say dinosaurs still exist, I'm not saying, oh, look, just look at the chickens around you. Those are T-Rexes. No, I believe they still exist. The Loch Ness Monster, people laugh about that, but that's been cited a lot. And it fits the description of Leviathan, a water-dwelling animal or amphibious. Okay? And I'm not going to get this pronunciation right, so I'm just going to write it down. This is an animal that people in the Congo swear that they have seen and see on a continual basis. If you can pronounce that, congratulations. Mbembe? Something, I don't know. Again, people in the Congo still swear up and down that they see this animal on occasion. And researchers have gone in there and they'll hold up pictures of dinosaurs. You know, oh, is it this one? Nope. This one? Nope. And then that's the one. And they've identified it. This. And I don't think it's just a legend. I don't think that, oh, they're from the Congo, they don't know anything. I think they know a whole lot more than we do. Okay? And I think it's very judgmental to say, well, they're from the Congo, they live in the jungle, what do they know? Again, that's that liberal elitism. Anyway, I think these people are absolutely right. And I think there are some dinosaurs that live in remote regions of the world, and they still exist. Why not? Okay? We discover new animals, especially in the ocean, all the time. So why would we say, oh no, they can't exist? I've never seen one, but it would be really narrow-minded of me to say, well, I've never seen a dinosaur, so they can't exist. Well, you know what? I've never actually seen $1 million, but I know it exists. Okay? So I think it's just really narrow-minded. Anyway, I wanted to do this, like I said, as a precursor to some future videos, and some of them are going to get pretty controversial. And I'll probably go back and forth because I know that everybody is interested in the creation versus evolutionism stuff. So I might do one like this one week, and then the next week do something more in line with what I usually do. End times, Shemitah cycles, or dispensations, things like that. And then kind of alternate between the two to kind of give everybody something. But this has been a popular topic as of late, because there are some Christian Facebook pages that I belong to, And I agree with a lot of what they say, but again, I think they get overzealous and they throw the baby out with the bathwater. Their logic is, if I concede that there's dinosaurs, then I must believe in evolution. No, they can be detached from one another. These are just creatures that God created. They're reptiles. We know that men, people, women, lived to these great ages before the flood. It just makes sense that animals would too. And we know, again, so we can observe, that reptiles never stop growing. So in 900 years, a reptile, a lizard, could get really big, right? So to believe that dinosaurs existed doesn't mean that I'm subscribing to the lies. I know that NASA lies. I know that the evolutionists lie. I know all of that. But this doesn't have to be a lie in order to be a creationist. Okay? It's just I acknowledge that dinosaurs existed with man and God created them. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know a lot of Christians who hold that same position. All right? So that's what I have today. Not real long. Well, I don't know. I'm coming up on about an hour where I'm supposed to be. But I didn't do this at the beginning, so I'll do it now. Look, all of this is to take back what is God's. The evolutionists have lied and taken God's creation and perverted it to brainwash kids, adults, into believing this evolution lie. And when you compromise and you concede evolutionism and you compromise your Bible, that's taken away from God. And I don't believe that. I don't believe in doing that. I want to give God credit for everything because he said he created everything. All right? Dinosaurs, squirrels, doesn't matter. He created all of them. All right? And I think that we as Christians need to take that back. We need to take back what belongs to God. And we need to educate our kids because when kids hear this stuff millions of years ago and animals evolving from one to the next, their faith is being stolen. And I'm sorry, but if you're a teacher at a public school or a public university and you are teaching this stuff, you're in for it. Remember what Jesus said about if you hurt one of these children and it compromises their faith, it'd be better for you to have a millstone tied around your neck and dumped into the deepest ocean. Think about that when you're teaching evolution. You know, at a certain point, you have to decide what's more important, my paycheck or serving God. And sometimes they are mutually exclusive. It's just the way it goes. But that's what this is all about. As we move closer and closer to the rapture and tribulation, things are going to get worse, and you're going to be asked to compromise your faith and other things. What are you going to do? Now, I'm not talking about your salvation. If you're saved, you are saved. Okay? You can't lose that. But what I am saying is you will be you'll be held accountable. You will have to answer for that. If you're stealing the faith of kids or preventing them from ever coming to Christ because they've bought into the evolution lie, you're responsible for that. You're going to watch as those people are thrown into the pit of fire for all of eternity and know that, you know what, I taught them evolution. I taught them evolution and it stole their faith. They never got saved. I'm responsible, partly responsible, for them being in the pit of hell right now. Think about that. All right, so what do we know? 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 4. This is the gospel encapsulated. Paul is telling us the means by which we are saved, which is, of course, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That is the gospel encapsulated, those 4 verses. Okay? Romans 3:25 tells us, not a very good 3, that we are saved by faith in his blood. When you trust on the blood of Jesus, you are saved. Nothing more required. Faith alone, no works. Okay? Trust on the blood, you are saved. All right? And then Ephesians 1:13, which tells us that once we're saved, we are always saved because we are sealed by the Holy Spirit. So if you are saved, what are you doing to get other people saved? Again, going back to teachers and scientists, whatever else, if you are perpetuating this evolution lie, you're not doing much for the cause of Christ. You're working, against the cause of Christ. That's why this is so important. Again, it doesn't matter if you're into dinosaurs or not. It's the premise behind it. Okay? If you're a saved Christian, you should be doing everything you can to get people around you who are unsaved to get them saved. Handing out tracts, soul winning, witnessing, sharing these videos, taking up the cause of creation versus evolution. Evolutionism is what I like to call it. Defending the creation. In fact, I have a King James Bible, of course. I talk about that all the time. Boy, I'll just throw that down there for a minute. I want to show you the Bible that I have. King James Bible. It's called the Defender's Study Bible. Defending the faith from a literal creationist viewpoint. In this Bible, the commentary notes defend creation at all costs. Now, I don't agree with all the commentary notes. Remember, commentary notes, they're nice, they're useful, but they are not inspired. Okay? God's Word is inspired, but the commentary notes are not. But Henry Morris does a fantastic job defending creation. So I highly recommend this Bible, the Defender's King James Version, of course, Study Bible. Defending the faith from a literal creationist viewpoint. It's an excellent Bible. Again, I don't agree with all of the commentary, but probably 95% I do. Especially when he's defending the creation account, etc. Good stuff. So if you get a chance, get yourself one. Okay. So, if you're not saved, what are you waiting for? This is coming soon. We are right here, this close to the rapture. Refer to my previous video. What's going to happen to you if Jesus comes back and you're not saved? You're going to go through this horrible tribulation period. Worse yet, if you die before Jesus comes back, you're going straight to hell. And then someday you'll stand at the great white throne and be judged by your works, which means you're in big trouble. Because then you're going to be then cast back into hell, then all of hell will be cast into the lake of fire. And that's where you will spend eternity. Burning day and night. It's going to be a horrible thing. I don't wish that upon anybody at all. And look, no matter what you've done in your life, you can be forgiven. There is no such thing as an unforgivable sin. Don't let the Catholics fool you. All right? The only thing that would be unforgivable is not getting saved. Okay? Doesn't matter what you've done. You could have done the worst sin in the whole world, the worst thing you can think of. If you truly trust on the blood of Jesus Christ, you will be saved. Always saved. Can't lose it. And you'll be on your way to heaven. And that's what I want for everybody. All right? So, again, please like, share, subscribe. We want these videos to go out as far as they can. We want to get people saved. That's the whole goal of this channel. All right? All right, guys. Thanks again for watching. Questions or comments, leave them below. Find me on Facebook. Email me. Been getting a lot of comments on a number of my videos. I try to keep up. I can't always, but I try to. And I wanted to just say thank you for all the positive feedback. I mean, 99% of it's been positive, and that's fantastic. I appreciate that. I try to answer people's questions, even if somebody is, if they don't agree with me, I don't agree with them. I still try to keep it civil and give my point of view. I'm not going to argue, though. And a lot of times people will bring up points that I've already discussed in my video. I'm not going to transcribe my video. Just watch the video and you'll get the answer or my rebuttal. All right, most of the time. All right, everybody, take care and God bless.